This show is a proud member of the Blue Collar Roots Network and is created for professionals and people who know what they're doing already. The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the network or the sponsors. Do everything according to government regulations, OSHA safety practices, and manufacturer listing and labeling instructions. Not just because someone said so on a podcast. Now, on with the show.
You're listening to the Tool Pros Podcast.
You know the kids who keep talking to you about Star Wars or Harry Potter long after everyone else has lost interest? These guys are like that, but about tools. Here's the Tool Pros and Tool Nerds, Brent Ridley and Billy Noth.
Hello and welcome to the Tool Pros Podcast. This is your host, Brent Ridley, sitting virtually next to my co-host, Billy Noth. How you doing, Billy?
I'm doing good, Brent, and I'm sitting virtually next to our guest, Bill Spohn.
Bill Spohn from True Tech Tools is here with us today. He needs no introduction because he is a true tool pro. How you doing today, Bill?
I'm doing great, Billy. Doing great, Brent. And I'm actually sitting virtually in between the two of you. Could you please just edge over a little bit?
Yeah.
That's funny stuff.
We'll give you a little bit
more space and room.
Yeah. A little bit more elbow room, please.
I wanted to bring you on here because you were recently at the AHR Expo, which was out in Chicago, annual expo they have every year to show off the newest and greatest stuff, innovations in HVAC. So, of course, with that comes new cool tools. Can you just start off by mentioning a few of the cool tools that you saw that were interesting and give us some feedback on them?
One of the most interesting things I saw was a live demo by AccuTools. They had set up 3 of the new Fieldpiece vacuum pumps, which in and of itself is a great new tool. They had set them up with cylinders, with recovery cylinders, and they had put Bluetooth vacuum gauges on both the recovery cylinder and on the pump. And then they were streaming the data from the recovery cylinder up to a screen, and you could look at 3 different curves. So you might say, why would they be doing this, like to compare amongst 2 or 3 of them? What they were comparing was some new hoses. They've got a 1-inch vacuum hose. And this 1-inch hose, we call the True Blue hose. It's blue in color. It's made of vinyl, and you can twist it pretty much like a pretzel in your hand, like a 3-foot section. You wind it up into a ball the size of a Frisbee.
Oh, man, that sounds awesome. I'm glad you started with that, Bill, because that was really what I saw, which really piqued my interest, was the leaps and bounds that AccuTool has made. They started out making kind of the blue vac, and that was kind of their main bread and butter here. But now they're stepping into some other stuff, which is really fascinating. Now, those hoses, they're like non-permeable. Is that one of their claims also?
Right, non-permeable. And because of the very large bore volume, the inner diameter, they're able to pull a vacuum in like record time. I should have taken a picture. Should have taken a picture of a lot of things. But on that screen, I think I saw that they were below 500 microns in about 4 minutes, whereas the other 2 systems were edging out in the tens of minutes to, actually they had like a 1-inch hose, a 1/2-inch hose, and a 1/4-inch hose. And the point was showing the difference of what a hose can make.
So those inner diameter, they're like a 1-inch hose is huge. That is a massive hose there. So what, they got a 1-inch hose and they got to have a relatively tapered down end on it. So what has it got, like a 1/2-inch end on it or something of that nature?
They actually have, it's a modular system. There's like a clamp that you can put on the end to put different end adapters on, and it comes all in a kit. And they really had just a first prototype of the kit there, but it was fully functional. They demonstrated it. We don't have a price point yet. We don't have an availability date, but I'm expecting it'll be a matter of weeks, maybe like 6-8 weeks, something like that. We should have something.
That would be amazing.
That sounds so awesome. So let's just say we get a 1/2-inch True Blue hose. Let's say a guy doesn't have a 1/2-inch connection on the end of it on his vacuum pump. So he can actually get a 1/2-inch hose and he can get a 3/8 connection or something like that and put the connector on the end of it, or a 1/4-inch connection.
I think all the hoses are going to be 1 inch. You can just put a different end connection on the hose itself.
That's very cool.
It's got like a clamp fitting. It's got a self-centering O-ring. Dennis Cardinal, Joey D from HVAC Talk, he was there. He and Cornell Oplers are kind of leaping out of their skins because they're just beaming, so proud of what they've done in the last year with the Blue Vac products and with the new True Blue hoses. And then also they came out the combustion analyzer. I think it's called the Blue Flame, and it's a touch screen combustion analyzer.
Which looks amazing. I saw pictures of that, and that had me drooling.
Pretty sweet piece of kit. We're hoping to get our hands on them very soon too. So as they roll them out here after the show.
The Blue Flame combustion analyzer looks awesome. It looks like it's got a touchscreen deal on it. And it looks like it has all the features of something similar to like a Testo 320 or even maybe Testo 310. I don't know how in-depth the parameters are. What would you compare it to?
I would say more like a 320 is what you're looking at.
Okay.
That's really cool to see, like AccuTools, like say, jumping out of that just micron gauge company. Now, I know they did make a scale and they made some other things, but they were mainly known for the Blue Vac. But this is going to take them into a whole nother level, and I think it's fantastic.
They're also upgrading the whole Blue Vac line for everything to be Bluetooth, and everything will work with the Blue Vac app.
Now, even that goes along with the Micro Blue Vac also?
Yeah, that too. It'll move to a different price point. It'll get some more features, but everything, they're just heading towards app connectivity with all their tools.
Now, you say that everything's heading to app connectivity. Now, as far as the combustion analyzer, that going to be app related too, not just touchscreen?
Yeah, it's an app. There's a Bluetooth to an app already. Yep.
Okay.
The app is so great because Jim Bergman did such a good job on it. It was really a very, very nice app. And I know it will be all of that stuff. I'm sure will be compatible with MeasureQuick. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And they also did a retake on their packaging. You probably remember the Blue Vac micron gauges come in your basic retailer kind of blister pack. These actually, I think it was a sample again. This is what they're moving towards. It looked more like the kind of case you get your iPhone in, is what it was looking like. So they really spruced up sort of the whole look and feel and features of the product line there. Really a technical and I think a marketing makeover for them.
Very cool.
Very nice. Now, there was also another item at the show. There was a scale that had a solenoid, and it was going to integrate with MeasureQuick, and it was going to be kind of like a self-charging type deal. Do you have any information on that?
I didn't see that one in person, but I did hear about the charging scale with the charging module. If I'm not mistaken, I think Blue Vac always had that, or AccuTools always had that, but now I think it's going to be a Bluetooth connected scale is what it is.
Yeah, I know AccuTools had the scale where I think you could input 10 pounds or whatever, 10 pounds, 5 ounces in it, weigh it in. But I don't know, maybe I misunderstood what the post was about. I thought that maybe the new scale was going to actually take some of the readings from MeasureQuick and kind of charge from there. I don't know if that's just me dreaming bigger than it is.
To be determined. We'll figure this all out.
Very cool. So, yeah, that's exciting stuff. You mentioned the Fieldpiece vacuum pump. I have one that I'm testing out. I've tested it out for a handful of times, 2 or 3 times. What are your initial impressions on the Fieldpiece vacuum pump?
Looks very solid. Looks like they thought of everything. I mean, just little features that they put into it in terms of just basic creature feature functionality. I really think it's very unique, put it that way, very unique in its space. The quick change oil feature that they have in it, and then the fact that you can also bring your spare oil with you. You can actually charge a spare cartridge and it snaps into the side of the unit, and then you can do the quick change swap out.
That's so valuable. Once you go from using a model that has that, I've never used the Appion before because I know the Appion has a similar feature to that. But once I've started using the Fieldpiece that does have this quick change oil feature on it, I can't imagine myself going back to something that doesn't because it seems so primitive.
Primitive.
Yeah. It does. It really does, man. It really seems very primitive because on these things, you can change the oil on the fly. You can change it while it's running. How many times you've been on a really big system and you need to change the oil multiple times? You'd have to shut the pump down, unhook it, valve off everything. Hopefully nothing's going to leak. But with the Fieldpiece new pump, don't have to valve off anything. You just refill it as on the fly type deal.
Yep.
That's cool.
So there's AccuTools, Fieldpiece. I think Fieldpiece has a little smaller tool bag coming out, which is going to be kind of neat. It's like a little brother to the BG44. Did you get to take a look at that, Bill?
Yeah, I did. And they had it all kind of loaded up with tools there. Looked like a real logical progression for them, something a little bit smaller and when you don't need everything that's in the BG44.
Absolutely. This is me talking. Fieldpiece has jumped into the tool bag market, and the tool bag market is such a nut to crack, and it seems like Vito has a hard grip on a lot of it. But I think the new tool bag I'm not sure the price point, but hopefully it'll be a price conscious point that guys can get into that maybe get in a little cheaper than the Vito bags.
Yeah, usually Fieldpiece is aware of that, and they price them to be attractive to the market.
Very cool. What other kind of cool stuff do you see out there, Bill?
Bacharach came out with a new combustion analyzer called PCA 400. This is a very unique device. It has the ability to hold 4 different sensors in it, and I'm actually leafing through a brochure I got right here. It's also got Bluetooth, 5-year oxygen sensor. It's made for sort of like an intermediate work as you scale up into commercial operations where you would have to measure NOx gas, nitric oxide gas, or sulfur dioxide gas. It's meant for a certain kind of like bridging the market from commercial to heavy commercial and light and industrial combustion. And I was actually reading some things just after the trade show about different, like California's putting regulations out for limiting the nitric oxide because NOx creates smog, basically. And so California's got restrictions. So you will have to measure the nitric oxide. And that's where this kind of analyzer comes in. They also make this really neat. The probe head snaps off and you can snap on a chiller body to it. And this chiller actually will extract all the water out of the sample so that it doesn't get absorbed in the tubing and you can get a pure reading of all the gases that are coming through.
Wow. So it totally separates the water totally out of it. That's super neat. Wow.
Yeah. It uses something called a Peltier chiller, which is an electronic chiller. Some like coolers and mugs and things like that have chillers you can plug into your 12 volts in your truck. Those are using semiconductor type chillers like the Peltier chiller. So the gas comes streaming in through the hose, and the hose is made of Viton, which is chemically inert. It comes streaming in through this hose, hits the wall of the Peltier chiller, and then gets dropped out into a little cavity, and then it actually gets pumped out of that cavity so that it doesn't come into contact with the gas, because these sticky gases will get absorbed into the water in the condensate in the system. So this really kills the water to keep a perfect dry gas sample.
Very cool.
That's very cool. This thing is very impressive. I'm looking at it as you're talking about it. I pulled it up online on Bacharach's website. I mean, it's a very impressive looking deal. I like how the cord, unlike some of the Insight and some of the earlier ones, the cord was just like it was 3 or 4 different cords together. Now this is all one piece. I like how that's the case and whatnot.
Yeah, it's one module. The other thing they're going to be working on is, I don't think it's going to be available in the first one, but they're going to have near field communication. So when you get a pre-calibrated sensor, you'll just wave the sensor in front of the keypad and it will communicate. It'll update and tell you where to put the sensor in the back of the unit. It's got 4 different bays for sensors in it. So that's really pretty awesome.
Now, I'll tell you what, my Testo 320 has broken, and it's been broken now for a little while. And this field serviceability has become such a priority on any new combustion analyzer that I'm going to buy. It's so important because I don't have the time to send it in and get it fixed, but I'm going to have to, but I just don't have that downtime. But if you can fix it in the field, you're not going to have that downtime. You can buy you a new sensor, maybe get it overnighted, whatever. You'll pay a little bit extra money, but you're not without that tool because that tool is a necessity in what you do every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bacharach's a great company, guys. They were sponsored with us for a few months. We hope to have them back someday, but they were fantastic. Guys, go check out their website. Not only do they have this PCA 400, they also have several of residential and light commercial combustion analyzers to choose from. There's lots of selection there.
Absolutely. Another thing I saw isn't an actual tool, but I'm going to talk about it just a little bit. But there's a product that you can use. It's radiant heating and cooling panels. They're being imported from Italy, the designers from Italy, and you can actually hook them up to a heat pump. And instead of running hot and cold air to heat and cool a space, you could actually heat and cool with these chilled or heated panels. So it was a very different thing. I got to take a real close look at that and understand that better, but apparently it's very popular in Europe.
That's very interesting. Radiant heating and cooling is, and in general, is not very big down here in the South, but then they have these panels. That's a very interesting concept. I wonder how that's going to pick up and go from there. That's kind of cool.
I was just working in a house that had radiant heating panels.
Really?
Which was very cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you have any of that stuff up there, Billy.
A lot of the stuff we have to deal with here now is radiant heating, but radiant cooling, not so much.
That's something different. That's really piqued my interest there.
That sounds very cool.
Yeah. I also spent quite a while talking with Scott Madden, Madden. He's the VP of Smart Tool Development for CPS. He's the guy behind the Easy Hood. Talked with him, and he showed several new products there. And I'm just going to tell you a little story here. So Eric Preston, my co-owner and vice president, and Matt Kolker, who's our purchasing guy and inventory manager, the three of us went to the show to meet everybody, talk about new things. So I bring a backpack because I like to carry a water bottle in it, some other things, some snack bars, things like that. And every time we stop at a booth, Eric would grab a brochure. Then I would turn around, he'd stuff it in my backpack. So I was like his mule for all the literature. And I'm looking here, and actually before we left, before we separated and went our separate ways, he grabbed all the literature from me, took a load off, but I don't have much of it here anymore. So I was going to tell you more about the CPS offering, but just from memory, they actually have a new IAQ monitor. It's a little thing. It sort of looks like the Apple HomePod, if you've seen that advertised yet. It's about that same size. It's got a light on it, and it detects several air quality parameters like particulates, CO2, temperature, humidity, and it can be used for a contractor to help diagnose and see what the conditions are in someone's home. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the price point is around $400.
Wow.
Wow. So similar to have you seen the Footbot or something like that?
We sell the Foobot. They're about $200, $199. They're designed to be like left behind in a customer's home, or actually we get consumers buying them from us to monitor their own indoor air quality. But we also sell one called the Air Advice. This new CPS piece is more like the Air Advice, where it actually will develop a report in real time and give you a snapshot after a few minutes of what's happening. And then you can kind of leave it behind with your customer to keep track of how their air quality is being managed.
Sounds good. Now, I've looked into the Air Advice because I really wanted to jump on board with it, but they make you sign up for like a subscription service. Do you know if CPS is going to do anything like that?
I don't think so. I think CPS is more of kind of the you buy it, you use it kind of thing. I think Air Advice is more into the collecting information. I think the Air Advice model started out several years ago, and I think CPS may have kind of leapfrogged over them into a new model where you can collect information of it real time and that kind of thing.
That's the kind of tool I need. That's the kind of tool that's valuable for a contractor. You take it into a house, sit it down for a while you're doing service or doing the maintenance, and then you can get a report before you're done. And that kind of stuff is super valuable if it's at a reasonable price. The problem with Air Advice is they were way outside of what I was willing to pay for something of that nature.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see how the reaction is to that and the quality and all that, but it seemed like it was pretty good. He also had a Bluetooth clamp meter, and the way he described it to me, it was based on a Fluke 117, and it had the power factor and power features of a Testo 770. And he's rolled that all into one. If I'm not mistaken, it has Bluetooth. Again, I'm trying to work off of memory here. And the price point was about $150.
Wow.
Holy moly. Wow. If it's got the features of the Testo 770 and it's $150, wow.
Yeah.
CPS, do they have any other electrical meters, or would that be like their first go-round in that?
That's their first go-around into it. And it's this guy I mentioned, Scott Madden, who sort of brings that expertise to them. So he's sort of modernizing their tool array there.
Very cool. Yeah, they've gone leaps and bounds from where they were. The Easy Hood by itself is a fantastic tool. Now, for you guys who don't know what we're talking about here, it's basically taking the old, I guess it's ABM little anemometer that plugged into your phone, and it takes it and puts it into a hood that collapses down so you can carry it easy in your truck. So you take this hood, you put your Bluetooth little anemometer in there, and that you get great, accurate, easy, fast CFM measurements on residential like commercial stuff. And it's for the price point, which is like $300 or maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe Bill can tell you that, but it's fantastic for what you're doing. And I couldn't recommend it more for anybody who's really into testing airflow and finding out stuff like that. It's pretty accurate for the price, and it's very easy to use.
Absolutely. Yeah. They also have a sparkless vacuum pump for people who are doing work with like propane refrigerant, that kind of thing, like R290 and R600, that kind of thing, so that they actually have it rated so that it could be used in that kind of atmosphere. That was something else they mentioned there.
That's funny you brought that up, because I've always wondered that, but I've never thought to ask anybody about the electricity that happens in the vacuum pump and if that would be an issue with combustion when using R290 or something like that.
I think right now, actually, the legal limit is 5.3 ounces of propane. So that limits it to systems of fairly small size. Like I think True Manufacturing has some reach-ins and some like beverage coolers and things like that that use propane as a refrigerant, which is a very efficient refrigerant, but the amount of charge in it is a very small charge. So if you're familiar like lifting a propane tank, it's not anywhere near that much volume of gas in there in a system.
Absolutely. I understand. Yeah, absolutely. No, I want to get your opinion on this, Bill. It's not tool related at all. R290. Why couldn't we use it in a car? We're already running around in a car full of gasoline.
I don't know. I think they're using that
It's 1234YF or something like that.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that one. I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah, somebody brought that up to me.
I mean, they use CO2.
Do they?
They use CO2 in cars in Europe. I'm pretty certain about that point.
Interesting. I didn't know they use CO2, but yeah, somebody brought that up to me a while back, and I said, you know what, that's a good point because we're already riding around with a bunch of gasoline in it. So why not use 290, which is a very good refrigerant?
And even a lot of the municipalities here and the utilities, a lot of their vehicles actually run on natural gas,
Right.
Yep.
compressed natural gas. So what really would be the difference?
Not much. So what other kind of cool stuff did you see at the expo, Bill? Anything else you can give us the lowdown on?
We stopped by the Supco booth, and they had a lot of interesting little tools that seemed pretty unique. And it might be unique to me because I wasn't paying attention before this point, but they had a mirror that actually has a prism in it so that you can reach in and you can read the number on something that would look backwards in a mirror.
Oh.
Okay.
So a little extendable mirror with a prism built into the head of it.
So it doesn't revert the numbers. It reads the numbers the correct way.
Right.
Very cool.
And I thought that might be really easy to use or good to use in a pinch, that kind of thing.
Yep.
I think it's pretty simple, but other people have a solenoid checker, that kind of thing. And Hillmore has been purchased by Stanley Black & Decker. So they were in the booth. They were sharing it with Stanley Black & Decker, as well as Lennox, the Lennox cutting tools and Irwin bits and drills. But they had a lot of the Black & Decker tools that were related to contractors, power tools, that kind of thing. They showed me one that at first it seemed like it's a little bit of overkill, but it was a threaded rod cutoff tool that you could use, like if threaded rod is in place, you're standing on a ladder or something like that, you wouldn't have to hack it or run a grinder on it and risk sparks and have to have a spark watcher with you, that kind of thing, or a fire watcher with you. But this tool actually sort of looked like a pro press, if you would. You slide it up on the rod, press the trigger, and the thing would just grind away and spin off the little piece of rod, cut it to length, and it was perfectly chamfered at the end. You could thread the nut right up on it.
Very cool.
Nice.
Now, who is that made by? You say Irwin?
No, that's Black & Decker.
Oh, Black & Decker.
DeWalt.
DeWalt, yeah.
DeWalt was really the brand that they were showing there. And actually, we're looking to put those on a TrueTech, the DeWalt plan. We talked to the channel manager about getting that done. Not totally in place yet, but I think our progress with the Hillmore brand has impressed them, and they'd like to work with us further.
That's very cool. Yeah, I've seen the DeWalt threaded rod cutter. I've seen videos of it. I've never seen it in person, and it looks fantastic. Could I justify buying it as a contractor? No, but a commercial contractor who does a lot of hanging stuff with a lot of threaded rod, maybe a big job where they got a ton of threaded rod, man, that'd be the perfect job in the world. And you think about how much time it would save from not having to grind down each one after you cut it off, and you could just thread the bolt right on it, man. It'd be so much of a time saver.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Our friends at Testo had a new product out too, which I think you might have seen in Brian's video.
Yep.
It was the Testo 440. So actually, I have one sitting on the table in front of me. I got it just before we left a week ago, and I'm going to take a good look at it and shoot some videos on it and share them with everybody. But it looks like a pretty cool modular system. We don't have pricing on it yet, but it looks pretty affordable, well under $1,000 for these different kits where you can do temperature, humidity, airflow, really nice combinations.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks like it has several different heads that you can snap on and get all kind of stuff. Now, one thing I've never understood about Testo is they call it a IAQ meter. Does it really do IAQ, or does it just do like CO or CO2 or what?
I guess it depends on how you define the IQ. So temperature, humidity, air velocity for the delivery, and then CO2 for ventilation aspects, CO for poisoning, toxicity, that kind of thing. And they also have one other probe, which is kind of unique. It's a turbulence probe. So it actually measures like swirling drafts, because there's actually some legislation in Europe where they monitor that for office workers, especially giving people like a crick in your neck, that kind of thing is the way I always remember it being told.
Okay.
Really? Now that's something I would never even think about. They're thinking turbulent air could affect office workers and things like that, huh?
Like cold drafts on your neck, that kind of thing.
Okay.
They also have a light probe for ambient light. So that's part of like indoor environmental quality they're getting into. And mini vane, those small diameter vanes, like a 1/2-inch diameter vane, and then a maxi vane, if you will, a 4-inch diameter vane. One that's made of plastic and one that's made of metal. The metal one is lighter and it's more precise and it gives you a better reading. So all these heads all snap in, which sort of lowers the cost to put together your own kind of kit. So we're going to be looking at the Testo kits that they provide, as well as some different ones from TruTech. We'll be coming up with our own, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm excited about that because it looks really nice. Testo, they were always known as kind of the top dog as far as some precision instrumentation. They've kind of still tried to keep with that precision instrumentation, but kind of come down on the price point to get a little bit more traction in the industry. And I think they've hit a pretty good sweet spot here. So hopefully it comes in at a pretty nice price point.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone a little while now, and we've covered some things at the AHR Expo, some fantastic stuff to look forward to in the HVAC and mechanical industry. I'm excited as can be. Billy, you got anything else to talk about, bud?
I just had one question for Bill, and is for all of the things that you saw at AHR, what is the one thing that you're most excited about to get into TruTech tools?
I think it was the first thing I talked about, the AccuTools, the 1-inch diameter True Blue hose, just the way I saw it perform, and then with the Bluetooth availability on all their gauges and the integration with MeasureQuick. I know a lot of good things are going to come from that. The other thing I saw was a battery-operated vacuum pump at CPS. I think it was 2 CFM. It would run for about an hour, but what I'd like to do, and maybe I'll work with one of you guys, is to get a True Blue hose and that little pump and see what kind of systems it could work with.
Absolutely.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, that would be very cool.
Now, who makes that? Is it?
CPS has got their label on it.
I believe it's from Makita.
It is Makita. Yeah, in fact, the battery pack said that.
Yeah, I've seen the Makita one overseas in Australia, and I've seen guys use them over there, and I'm thinking, man, that'd be so awesome to have here. I was always leery about the runtime. We couldn't get that much runtime. Even if you increase the battery amp hour, even if you get like a 6 or a 9 amp hour on that vacuum pump, you could maybe get 2 hours maybe on a good one. But if you combine it with the hoses,
With a 1-inch hose.
the 1-inch hose that you're talking about from AccuTools, I think you could pull down most residential systems within that time frame.
Right. That's an interesting thing that's coming up. So we're, as usual, TruTech, we're trying to put together good packages to help you guys out, you guys in the field. So that's our goal.
Cool.
Well, Bill, thank you for coming on. Thank you for telling us about all the cool stuff you saw at AHR. I'm extremely jealous I didn't get to go this year, but next year it's going to be in Atlanta, so I hope I'll be able to meet you there, and we'll meet up, and we can look at all the cool stuff together.
That'd be terrific.
Hope.
Yeah.
You better make it since it's in your back door.
Yeah, you better.
Yeah, it is in my hometown here, so I don't have much of an excuse.
Not at all.
Exactly. Well, guys, thank everybody for listening. We appreciate you so much. If you like what we do, go online, find us on iTunes or Stitcher, leave us a review, let us know how we did, good, bad, or indifferent. Either way, just let us know one way. That way we got something to build upon. Also, guys, if you liked what Bill had to talk about here, go check out TruTechTools.com. He's got a wonderful selection of all kind of HVAC-related tools, industry leader in that kind of stuff. He also has his own podcast. It's called Building HVAC Science. It's a fantastic podcast. I suggest you guys take a listen to that. I learn something new every time I listen to it, tenfold maybe. Thank you guys for listening to it. We appreciate it so much. Well, guys, we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Tool Pros Podcast. The best way to listen to this podcast is by using your smartphone or other web-connected device, and subscribing using the podcast app on Apple devices or the Stitcher app, or Google Store for Android devices. You can find all of the shows on the Blue Collar Roots Network by going to bluecollarroots.com. From all of us at Blue Collar Roots, thank you for listening.